Hi friends, this is Christina here from Once Upon a Hook and Yarn. Today we are going to be making a case for the Tamagotchi Pix, and we're going to be using the I Love This cotton yarn that you can find at Hobby Lobby. And this is basically a 100% cotton yarn, and it's in the color, it says 340 Brights. And the weight is going to be a 4 medium. So I'll try to move this closer here so you can see the label. I love how they do a little holographic. It's so cute. And this color is just one of my favorites. Anything that's rainbowy, bright colors, I really love the vibrancy of it. So what you're going to need to make this case, basically your yarn needle, some type of scissors or nips like I use, and the hook that we're going to be using today is the one that I use for pretty much all of the cases that I make. This is a Clover and the size is G 4.0 millimeter. This is by far my probably most used hook that I have or that I own. So yeah, that's all you need. It's really it's going to be simple. The actual written pattern is not available yet, as I have been having issues due to where the charm kind of attachment lands and the camera, and keeping it loose enough obviously for the button to not be, compressed all the way. I've had a lot of trouble because each different yarn or weight that I use on my wall, like there, as you can see, I find that the same pattern doesn't work for every single yarn, so it kind of has to be adjusted. And what I'm hoping to do with this video is basically give you guys the tools of how I do that, how I achieve the results that you want, basically, because you don't want to have any fibers around the camera. And for those of you that do want the charm hole, I'll show you how I include that in as well. If you don't want it, then you can just basically skip that part of the video because your count will remain exactly the same. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and take this off. So you just look at these colors. Isn't that adorable? So pretty. Thought this one would match nicely. And it'll go with pretty much any of the shells, I think, too, because, yeah. See, super cute. Okay. So I've got my model ready. I'm going to get a bit of a strand here to get started. So same starting method that I use for my other patterns as well. You're going to start with a magic ring. So basically you're going to make this little loop kind of cross over, and then I insert the hook between my two fingers, grab it up, and then do like a chain one, and there you go. So it's started, and that does not count as a stitch, at least not today. So we're going to go ahead and crochet 6 single crochets across this little bit here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so once you have your 6, you're going to go ahead and pull this string nice and tightly so that it closes the center piece here. And then I kind of manipulate the single crochets around that loop and tighten as needed to try and get that perfect little circle. So next, we're going to start right here. So you're not joining your work yet. What you're going to do is you're going to work in a continuous spiral so that you don't have any seams or lines going through your case. So once you're in that first single crochet there, we're going to do 2 single crochets in every stitch around until we get back to this beginning. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11, 12. So that's the end of the next round there, basically. Take a little bit more string over here. Oh, I love how the color changes. You guys will see, this yarn is awesome. Plus it's cottony, so I mean, if you're like me and you like different textures of yarn, this is definitely one that's nice to touch. All right, so next row, you're gonna start it with doing 2 single crochets, and then we're gonna do basically the same pattern as my other. So now that we're gonna do 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, basically all the way around until you get back to this point. So if you need to use a stitch marker, you can go ahead and place one so you know where to go, but I tend to like to just go by the visual, so you can see where this spiral kind of starts, and each row you'll see and you can kind of just eyeball it. That's all I do. I don't have any specific count that I follow for this case. So let's go ahead and do 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And as you can see too, I'm also working over the thread from that magic loop, so I don't have to weave it in at the end, and that makes sure that it's nice and secure as well. So your magic loop is not going to come undone. All right, we're almost back, so I've got 1, and then 2. So now we've ended that round. What I would do here, if you're not using this specific yarn, or if you're using maybe a bulkier weight, as you're going, keep measuring to make sure that you're gonna have room for your camera. So what I typically like to do is I prefer to have all of my seams end at the bottom of the shell, just a personal preference. So if you wanted to do that, then you would basically, we're going to keep following the same pattern, and then once I get down here, we're going to go ahead and make the camera hole. If you prefer it at the top, then you would want to do it right here, but I prefer to do it on the other side because it gives it a little bit more of a like a flush look. It's going to make a smaller camera hole, which is what I prefer. So next round, now it's going to be a little bit easier. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to single crochet 2 and then do 2 single crochets in 1, and so you know how it's going to line up, your 2 single crochets in 1 are always going to fall right before you've got these 2 single crochets. So this is going to be the one, you'll see. So we're going to go 1, 2, and then see there's 2 and 1. Now we're going to go right here and do 2 single crochet. So it's a very visual pattern. It's not necessarily one that you have to count, which makes it a little bit easier for me because I make these all day long for my shop's orders. So it helps as you're going, like, I know, oh great, there's 2, so I know that I need to do another increase right there. All right, so let's keep doing this till the next one here. Now, this is going to be where I think we want to do the camera hole. Yep, see, that's where my spiral starts. And I like to do the camera hole in between a space that has 2 increases and a space of 1, 2, so 2 singles in the middle, and you'll see why. So you're going to chain 6, and you want to chain them fairly tightly because we're not going to be working in them, if that makes sense. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the next move that I do is to do a half double crochet instead of a single crochet, and I'll show you why. So you're going to skip 2 spaces like we talked about, and we're going to go in right here where there's room for another increase. So if you were to do just a single crochet, which you could, I guess, if you want, but I prefer not to because I feel like it makes the hole look a little bit wonky. It gives it this like one piece that just sticks out, and over time as you use your case, this just, you know, it doesn't look pretty. So to make it a little bit more finished by doing 1 half double crochet there, I'll show you. It makes it a little bit tidier and uniform, and it's closer to how that stitch looks. And I started doing this years ago, so do with it what you will, but that's how I do all of my charm holes, my camera holes, any type of hole that I have to do. I always make the next stitch a half double crochet when I'm joining back to my piece of work. All right, so now that you've joined in that stitch that you did the half double crochet, you're going to also do a single crochet to keep up with the increases that you have kind of here. And then you'll see how it starts to take shape. So we're going to do continuing our increases from that same round. We just did single crochet 2. Now we're going to do 2 together in the next stitch. And you're going to do 1 single, 1 single. Now right here we're going to do 2. I'm sorry if this is confusing. This is like the best way that I've come up with trying how to explain it, but all right, so we finished that round now, or a little bit over, but so you can kind of see how it's starting to take shape. It's going to be more of an oval shape this case instead of just being the round, just because of the way the camera hole is. But as you're working, just continue to double check that you're making, you know, enough increases and that your camera hole's situated nicely. And taking into account, we're going to have a whole row of increases up here. And I like to do it this way so that it's looser up top, because I found that if you don't do that, the first couple of cases that I made for this, they just ended up being way too tight, and it was pressing the button down, and that caused some issues. So let's go ahead and continue. We're going to keep doing increases. If you're using a different yarn and you're maybe already towards the edge, then this round don't do any increases, just do single crochets around. But for all intents and purposes, for this specific yarn, we're going to go ahead and do another round of increases. Same method as the prior round. We're just going to do single crochets in all the single crochets from before, and then just before all of your increases from the prior row, you're going to put 2. So let's keep going. Oh, these colors are going to be so pretty. Got 1 there. All right. So now that you've made it to your camera hole, we're going to go ahead and single crochet in here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I feel like 8 is usually the amount that I use with most yarn types. If it's a thinner yarn or maybe like a 3 weight, I would probably do 10 in here, but this yarn it's pretty firm, so 8 was a good fair bit there, and it's going to give you that nice shape there for the camera as well. So we're good. And keeping in mind, once you put it on, it is going to stretch out a little bit, but not a whole lot. So let's go ahead and continue down the other side. You're going to increase right there since there was an increase the prior row. And what that does, doing it right before an increase, it doesn't create like an effect. Like if you were to do the increases on top of every increase, it kind of makes like this weird line shape, but by doing the increases just before, it makes it smoother and your circle go nice and round. Let's keep going until we get to the bottom. Kind of starts to resemble a little purse for like a Barbie. All right. So we get to the last increase there. So do your very last increase. And now the next round, all we're gonna do is single crochet because now we've got about the size that we need. So you can measure it once it kind of lines up top to bottom, side to side with the silhouette basically of the shell that you're making, then you're done. It doesn't matter the shape that it's taking right now, because as soon as we keep going, you're gonna see it makes a nice perfect oval shape. So don't fret. All right, so next round, just single crochet all the way. And be sure to make your stitches nice and uniform. All right, and once you get to that last increase from the row, you know that you've gotten to the bottom. You can also see too, that's where the spiral kind of starts, so I know that's the end of that round, or right about where we're at. So you can see it start to take shape, and if you kind of, you know, mold it as you go, then that'll help you to see when it's time to do the little charm hole. So like we can see, we're getting kind of close. I think this next round with this particular yarn, it might be time to do that charm hole because it's going to pull it in like this. So you can see that's a pretty good spot. If you're not quite there yet, or if you're using a thinner yarn, then do another round of single crochet. Otherwise, if you're using this one, let's continue. So we're going to keep going, one single crochet in each stitch till you get about to like the halfway point of the side. And now here's what I mean by every yarn is different. So I've tried doing counts with this, but it's always different for whatever reason, because it's, so let's make sure we've got this lined up properly. Now we can kind of guess where we want that charm hole to end up, and don't be afraid to just guess and think where it's going to go and do another round. It does take a lot of trial and error when you're using different yarn types, and what I find is sometimes I have to frog my work and go back, you know, to the prior rows to get that perfect fit, but it doesn't take forever. So let's go ahead. So if we were to put it here, this is lined up. keeping in mind that as you go, your work's gonna go together. So maybe I might undo one, because after another couple of rounds of just doing single crochet, we're gonna do decreases, which is then gonna pull these stitches in together. So I'm thinking I want these two for the charm hole. So if that's the same case as you, I pretty much, if you look at the shape here, I go almost to about the halfway point around the side. So we want to skip these 2 stitches for that charm hole area. To do that, I like to pull my work tight, chain 2, and then you're going to half double crochet in the 3rd stitch over. So that should be a good location for it. If you don't want the charm hole, you can skip this part, totally up to you. And basically just single crochet all the way back around. And we're going to see if this lines up nicely or not. It's always a possibility. One day I'll figure out a pattern and I can write it for different yarn weights maybe, but I've just been so busy lately, so I apologize I've not gotten that done. But at least hopefully with this video, you guys can try to start making them. And then if you still want to support my shop in other ways, I also sell all kinds of accessories and different things that you can use for your Tamagotchi, like charms and wristbands. All right, so now that we're back at the bottom, you can kind of see that how I told you it's going to start to take shape in that nice egg shape here. I want to check it to make sure how this is lining up. Okay, see, I don't like how this is. It looks like it's one too far down that way. So I want to move it forward 1 round. Boo. Alright. This is the fun part, trial and error. So I want to move mine forward 1 stitch. So I'm just going to single crochet 1, chain 2, half double, and then single all the way back around. That should be a better lineup. Hopefully this works out better. And it might take a few times for you to figure out where you want that charm hole to end up. If you're just a beginner, you're just starting out, then I might recommend just skipping over that for now, just so you can get a feel for whatever yarn you're using and how it molds around your Tamagotchi, if that makes sense. Let's keep going. All right, try this again. Yeah, I like that. It's lining up a little bit better. So you can see, as of right now, you know, it's just sitting there, but once you do your decreases, it's gonna pull the case more closer up to the front. So you'll see that'll start to line up. All right, next round, single crochet. On the charm hole, I like to go through each of the stitches. So you can see when you're through it, you'll see the 2 bars across the top and 1 below. And you're basically going to crochet right through that. So you'll have 3 single crochets across the top. And basically by going through the stitches, I feel like it gives it more structure right there rather than just going around the bars like we did on the camera. And it's going to give it that more rectangular kind of shape that you want. Again, just personal preference. There's no right and wrong in my world for crochet. Everybody kind of has their own little things that they like to do. It's basically just art in the form of fiber. So we're going to keep single crochet all the way around. This is going to be a long video. I'm sorry, guys. Hopefully you don't mind. All right. Kind of starts to look like a hacky sack. So as you keep making your rounds, just make sure to keep measuring to make sure where you're at. Whoa! And don't do that. Alright. So camera hole lines up there. Charm hole's gonna go there. I think we're about ready to start doing a round of decrease. And basically, so depending on the weight of yarn you're using, it's going to vary just like everything else in this pattern. But with this particular one, what I tend to do is like get a feel for it. So I can see, usually my decreases, I would do single crochet 3 and then decrease 1. If it feels really tight already, then I'll do single crochet 4 and then decrease the next and kind of continue that pattern. With this particular one, I think we're gonna do 4 because it's already pretty close to the shape. It doesn't look very loose. You don't want it to be too tight because otherwise it's gonna give you issues with that camera button. So we're gonna go ahead. Let's see, the spiral starts about here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're gonna single crochet 2 together in like this decrease. I like to do this method where you pick up the front bar of the first stitch, front bar of the second stitch, and single crochet them together. And what that does is it really makes it tidy, so as you're going, you really can't tell where those decreases are, and there's going to be no gap whatsoever. All right, so single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do, sorry, we're going to do a decrease again. So decrease, front bars, single crochet 4, 2, 3, 4, another decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I think I should do another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're getting pretty close, so you can check it again. Make sure it's not getting too tight. So camera. So if it's not pressing your camera button down, then I would do one more. If it's starting to squeeze it down, then stop doing decreases. So I'm going to do one more because I know with this particular yarn, it's going to loosen up as soon as you're done, because that's kind of what cotton does, especially if you wash it. So I'm going to do one more just for good measure. And then you're going to single crochet all the way back around for the next round. And you're almost done. Well, hopefully this video doesn't end up being too long. And it doesn't take much yarn at all to make these. I do like this colorway because I think you get just about every color in this particular skein with this case, because the Pix is such a large Tamagotchi. Alright, end of that round. And you can see it start to take that infamous bowl shape. I'm going to try it on. See charm holes lining up nicely. Camera. I like how this is taking shape. I feel like it's a little bit loose at the bottom, at least on mine, so I'm going to undo the last 2 stitches and do one more decrease right here on this particular round. And that's why it's super important to try your case on each round while you're learning how to do this, just because you can tailor it. Sorry. So you can tailor it to whatever model Tamagotchi or anything round that you're making, really. If you find that it's too loose, just add in a decrease. No one's gonna know. Alright, so we're gonna go back to single crochet around the edge. And this should be the last row. And don't be like me, folks. Make videos, put your Tamagotchis on mute. I've got 4 running right now and I'm feeling a little bit crazy. Alright. And we're almost done. I typically like to stop at the bottom center like I told you guys in the beginning of the video. But it'll change for each case that I make. If I put it on and it looks like it's too loose, then I'll go a few more stitches, but it should be a pretty good fit by now. So you kind of just put it on, give it a little molding, see kind of how it's fitting. Just got charm hole, excess, good. Camera hole, good. As long as you have about that much space, the yarn's not going to get in the way of taking your pictures, so that's good. feel like it's just a little bit too loose at the bottom still. So I'm gonna go back and do another decrease right here. And the reason why I'm doing them at the bottom instead of the top is you don't want any more tension at the top than there already is, because it's gonna depress that button. And if it does that, it causes the device to sometimes kind of malfunction. So since I did a decrease here at the bottom center, I'm not going to end it right there. I'm going to go a few stitches over, and then I'm going to end it. I'm going to do my very last stitch right here to close it up, and then to end it, I go basically slip stitch and tug it in. So by doing it here, I don't like to end anything over a hole because it's a little more noticeable. You can, I mean, you'll be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows here and then 4 rows moving forward. So if that bugs you, I'm a little OCD when it comes to that. I like my rows to look nice and tidy over the top of any openings. I think that's probably why I don't like it to end on the top too, because I like it to look even. I have my quirks. Alright, so this should be done. Let's go ahead and check it one more time. So you're going to kind of mold it around the edges if you want it to. Make sure that the button works nicely. If it seems like it's a little bit too tight, you can also pull the button upwards just to kind of help stretch the fibers a little bit. And you'll see once you start using your case, it starts to take shape of the shell of your Tamagotchi, and then that doesn't become so much of an issue, especially when, when you take it off and put it back on. That helps. So now you'll see it towards the bottom, since we did a couple of decreases here, it's giving the nice curved shape, and it's hugging the shell just a little bit better. So I like the way that looks. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my yarn now, especially since I've got a little bit of each color. That's awesome. So once you trim it, just pull the yarn through. And everybody's kind of got their own way that they like to finish their cases, but I do mine all the same way, which you'll see in my other patterns for the other shells as well, but I'm going to show you here. So basically it's like a hidden method of joining spiral rounds, I guess. I'm sure there's a fancy term for it, but can't think of it right now. Okay, so you're basically going to thread your needle, and then you want to go from the inside outside in the next stitch over. So as we're in this one, we're going to be working in this stitch. So you're going to stick the needle straight through, pull that thread through, not too tight, because you're basically going to make another stitch. It's going to look like a continuous row of stitches across the top. So once you've done that, then you're going to go in from the bottom of that last slip stitch, kind of tug it a little bit so it looks pretty uniform, and then, yep, you guessed it, right through there. So when you manipulate your stitches, you can kind of see now from the inside you can tell where it is, but on the outside and from the top it looks just like another stitch. And especially since you're going to be playing from the top, it looks pretty uniform versus just joining with a slip stitch and then sewing it in, which makes it look kind of messy. So once you've got it where you want it, basically the next thing you're going to do to keep that tension is go through the back little loop of that next stitch, tug it down, and then we're going to hide the work by going under about 3 to 4 stitches usually is good. So go one direction, give it a little tug so that it goes in nicely, and then you're going to skip over this little bar here and then go back under exactly where you just came from. What I like to do is kind of manipulate it so that this stays on this side and it doesn't go through the other, because you don't want to see, you know, the lines from your threads through the other side. And just wiggle it around a little bit. Don't tug it too tight because you don't want it to pull these stitches over. And then basically trim it. And now you've got a nice case for your Tamagotchi Pix. And if I had batteries in here, I would show you how it works, but I don't. Well, I kind of like how it ended up on that like bluish greenish. It makes it look kind of turquoisey. It matches the green shell nicely. So there you go. You can see, you know, there's your charm hole, got camera hole. And I mean, these aren't mandatory. You don't necessarily have to have the camera hole and the charm hole, so you could skip over that part and just make the cases like my traditional pattern for the on, and then just keep doing your increases until you get the size of the back of the shell. But most people like to have it there since it is a feature of the device. So there you go. Nice little case. I love the colors. And if you wanted to do a front cover, I don't know, maybe tell me if I should do another video with the front cover. I do a few different styles. I like to do mainly the one that has a front window, especially with the Pix. If you've seen any of my other cases, I make these basically little vinyl covers with a hole punch, and make that the like a screen protector cover. So if you do that, I do them so that they're removable. I can customize it, you know, for folks that are maybe left-handed and they want the button on the left hand or the right side, whichever. I mean, it's totally up to you. You could do it. I've seen somewhere they go up from the top, connect down at the bottom, or if they're completely removable. So you can do all kinds of ways. If you would like me to do a video on either the clear cover or a crochet cover, message or comment below. Let me know. Tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, everybody.